Welcome back to another episode of the Dynasty Dingers podcast. It is Monday, April 15th. We're recording around 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Doc, you are joining me as always. What is going on, brother?
I'm doing great, brother. I got a little nub of a cigar here, but never fear. I got a Rocky Patel Vintage 92 coming up right next. I'm confused, man. I don't know if I thought I was drinking too much, but I was like, what's all these players on TV? They're all number 42 today. Something's wrong with that there. And turns out it's Jackie Robinson Day. So happy Jackie Robinson Day.
So we were kind of talking about this before we jumped on. It must be April 15th every year, I would have to imagine, because I had said to you, I was just always under the impression that it was on a Sunday, like, Mother's Day or Father's Day, but obviously those are designated Sundays. So I'm guessing April 15th is just Jackie Robinson Day. We will try to look that up and just give you some defined clarification. Now, Doc, we have a great show today. We're going to talk about some of the rookies that have come up, the promotions, how they're doing, kind of looking at the contrast of how did organizations choose to either promote or manage those contracts in those situations as these rookies went into their first year. Then we're going to get into some of the pitchers around the minor leagues who we're excited for. And then finally, we're going to look around at some of the former prospects who are now making big time impacts for their teams. We have a couple names, especially over the last week, that we're really excited about and that have hit waiver wires pretty hard this weekend. So, Doc, let's just get into it. We wanted to evaluate, I guess, Jackson Holliday, the number one prospect in baseball, being called up and how he's done so far. What are your thoughts of his situation and how it kind of spirals to the rest of the rookies?
Well, man, I don't think it could have gone any better. It's just he's just tearing the cover off. No, it's not ideal. It's not ideal at a personal level. I feel for the kid. I'm not worried about him one lick. And with that in mind, I'm kind of glad it's happening. Like because I can go trade for him really cheap. No, honestly, but if you are, I mean, this is kind of like it might be his, kind of bottoming out for a while until he gets like a professional slump going later on, or we find out he doesn't hit homers for a while, whatever. But really, really though, I mean, the reason I'm kind of almost satisfied that it's happening is because I just think we're all so crazy, and I'm part of it. We're all part of it sometimes. This prospect mania, where you and I are prospect maniacs. We're part of the problem. But on Twitter, there can be people who kind of veer off from just like really caring about prospects to getting vicious and angry and just really impatient. And honestly, it's kind of funny. We're seeing it right now again. We never learn. We very, you know, Paul Skeens. It looks like he's ready. I do think he's ready. I also thought Jackson Holiday was ready. And it could be that he is. Maybe next week we're not having this conversation with Holiday. Maybe he's ripped a dinger or two, and we all forget. That's his little opening slump. But because of we were spoiled last year with Corbin Carroll, and it's funny. I want to say Gunnar Henderson and Jordan Walker even turned it around, but Jordan Walker did not start off that great. Anthony Volpe basically had a whole right off of a year. He somehow pulled off in 2020 with terrible, approach. And Gunnar Henderson, though, I think we really all forget that he did not have that great of a game going on early in his career, early season. It was kind of like it was up and down. I think early on he was getting on base really well, and that was it. And then he stopped doing that. And anyway, moral of the story is Jackson Holiday. No, I don't think anyone's really worried about him, but it kind of goes to show if this level of a prospect, if this talented of a player can struggle early on, they all can. And that prospect development is not linear.
Yeah, and I think also when we're talking about it from a fantasy perspective, there's a big deviation between what's valuable to a team and what's valuable to us as fantasy managers. And then for us fantasy managers, it's even a bigger deviation between, are you in roto categories, points? If so, what categories and what kind of point structure are you in? And I watched a lot of Jackson Holiday's first couple games because it was against the Brewers. I want to say his first game was what, Doc? Wednesday. They had Thursday off, played Friday against Milwaukee for 3 games. Point of this is he looked overmatched, and then he looked like he was pressing. Now, that's fine. He's 20 years old. Like, I think, again, to your point, the expectation that these guys are supposed to come up and be the, top 5% of baseball right off the bat is truly ridiculous. A good friend of mine talked about it today with me, and we said, I think the best indicator for immediate fantasy success from these prospects is that overwhelming dominant skill. Jordan Alvarez had that power in the minor leagues. You could see it. You could see the translation to the majors. Juan Soto had the approach and the ability to hit, right? When you look at other profiles right now in the minor leagues, Junior Caminero, big time exit velocities that hold up in the majors. Okay, I think we can hope that at least Junior can hit for some power when he comes up. But Jackson Holliday, more of the all around approach. Corbin
I mean, I
Carroll,
can push back. I
what
want
do
to
you
push
have?
back on you
What do you have?
because you're about to say Corbin Carroll's speed. And I always actually think Corbin Carroll was
You're right.
okay. That's a whole thing. I was gonna say he's kind of an all around package. Jackson Holiday, his approach, what I would say his approach is his main tool. Look at his average and his OBP and his walks to strikeout ratios. Like that, it's kind of the profile where you do not expect this with Victor Scott. I'm a VS2
Yeah.
guy to death, bro. The VS2 entertainment console, it's this was hey, you know how these consoles come out and they get rushed, like when the PS whatever just 5 just came out. I'm sure they got some bugs they got to figure out with the next games will be better. Moral of the story is I'll give you three guys off the top with different outcomes. So VS2, ultra speed and great defense. Okay, well, still like it's been a bumpy ride. Wyatt Langford, with crazy power and another like great approach. Yeah, his approach is still there. Everything's there. I'm not remotely worried about him. He's actually got pretty good numbers overall, but they're not numbers we expected. Maybe they're not the numbers we expected from Wyatt Langford. And the power, where's the home runs, baby? Where's the stolen bases? We're not seeing them. And so with Jackson Holiday, I would just push back and say, yeah, I mean, his tool, his number one tool, if you want to call it that, is his approach, and it's not there. And so it just kind of goes to show that I don't know if there is a rhyme or reason because you have three different guys there too. We have this like 20-year-old who he was drafted out of high school, but then Langford and VS2 were college guys. So I don't see anything here, and they're very different kind of. I don't know, man. I love it though. I'm not even mad. I'm like, you know what? Great. I love the unpredictability, the chaos, because some guys like we'll talk about Jackson Merrill. I'm like, oh well, if you named these if you named Holiday, VS2, Jackson Merrill, I wouldn't have said Jackson Merrill would be coming out the gates guns blazing.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you raise a great point because I think the better comparison with Holiday is probably Soto, right? Soto hit tool and approach in the minors, close to age range as well. I forget when Soto came up, but I want to say he was 19 or 20, right? It was early. It was a quick promotion to double, and then it was boom, the next week he's in the majors. And again, hit and approach. And Soto did pretty well his rookie year. If not for Acuna, I think wins rookie of the year. But I just think the difference with what we're seeing with Holiday is his father and brother and sister were in the stands. His grandfather was there. Like there's this huge anticipation of the number one prospect in baseball making his debut. With Soto, it was more like, are they really bringing him up? And then you look at I look at Churio for Milwaukee this year. It was kind of the same thing where it was like, well, expectations aren't that high, and we have you under the contract. Like, just go out and play baseball and figure it out. I just think Holly put this immense pressure on himself. So, with what we had just said, that would mean to me, like, if he can nullify that pressure he's placed on himself, we should see a pretty good product develop here in a couple of weeks once he's just settled in. Now, with Merrill, this is why I wanted to bring this up, and I want your opinion on this because Merrill out of the gates this spring was given the opportunity. You go out there, you perform, you can win this job. He went out, he did his job, he performed, he won the job. It's a lot of confidence. It's a lot of self ownership you're giving a player and an individual. And I think we're seeing a good result of that. He is performing above his marks, which you're going to talk about. Now, same thing can be said with Wyatt Langford. Go out there, perform, and you have the job. Okay, we're not seeing maybe the results we want, but we're seeing a baseball player work hard and work through some rookie adjustments. Now, look back too on other players like Chris Bryant came up in the minor leagues, excuse me, in spring training and dominated, but didn't get the chance because of the contract rule situation. Came up ultimately to win the Rookie of the Year that year, but different age range. Like you have a lot of different outcomes. I just think giving a player like Merrill and Wyatt Langford the opportunity to go out and win a job instills confidence in them and it instills the ability that they're in control of their fate. I do not like what was done with Jackson Holliday, where it's a bullshit 2 weeks and now you're up. And now the pressure is in your face because it's game 12 of the
Mm,
season and like storylines are dead. I just don't think that's healthy for the players.
interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I never act. That's the first time. Maybe other people have said it, but that's the first time I've heard it. That angle. That's very interesting because yeah, when everyone's it's not like everyone, but there's a few guys making opening day, and everyone's so busy caring about their team or their fantasy teams that they're not really zoned in on the one guy. Meanwhile, with Holiday, when he got his call, everyone's like, "Where were you?" And he's like, "I'm I'm just going through puberty, guys. I'm just trying to finish up." Yeah, the kid's a beast, dude. He beat the crap
No,
out of
but
me.
you're right. He's a
Um,
kid. He's a kid,
yeah,
dude. Compared to us, like
yeah,
that was my
yeah,
thought. But I
yeah,
agree with you.
yeah. So Jackson Merrill, dude, what's up? Like, By the way, I'm gonna just. I love the live updates mid podcast. We'll have to talk about this. Estuary Ruiz has been recalled.
Well, he was destroying,
Yeah,
destroying. Did you see his
yeah.
numbers?
Yeah, it's absurd, and I
Yeah.
don't I wouldn't mind talking about it if we have time at the end of it. But yeah, it's good. I'll just say good because especially that I'm not going to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole. Other than there is this one where like apparently he was wearing a bracelet
I'm
supporting
all
the
in on that one,
fans.
by the way.
I'm
All
kind
in.
of in on
I'm
it because
all
nothing
in.
else made sense.
Nothing else
Nothing
makes
else.
sense. No.
Nothing else made sense. I agree. Taylor Ward home run.
Yep.
Love. I got bit with folks. I'm going to be so much more annoying on this podcast because you're all going to be listening to it tomorrow, and you're going to make this isn't
We might have
interesting
to
to me.
make a
I know.
rule, no big inning while
Yeah.
we record. We'll see.
No
We'll see
big
how this
inning.
goes.
But these updates, this Ruiz thing, like it is cool because you're getting the first impulsive reaction. I didn't go and think of this Ruiz take, from someone on Twitter. I just saw it, and now I'm making the take live in action. But I will move on to Jackson Merrill. I did, I looked at his stats tonight. Okay, maybe tonight's the night he's, becomes a mortal human being once again. But no, tonight's not that night. He's 2 for 3 again. He's just out of control. I mean, so Jackson Merrill, nothing makes sense to me about this. I was just so hesitant to even get hyped behind to form any hype other than a batting average league where I certainly saw a quality hit tool, and certainly down the road I'm like, yeah, let's give him some runway here. Maybe this year he kind of breaks out. I just saw maybe a 15-15 good average guy, and I mean, his on base percentage last year between high A and double A was 326, and you kind of expect those things to come down. I just like, he's just not going to walk enough to be interesting to me in on base leagues. And frankly, a lot of what I play is OBP and or OPS, and I'm like, I mean, maybe, but now he's up to like 420 now, and 420 OBP or something crazy like that. It's like that's not gonna stick, I don't think, and I don't know if I should ever doubt him again. But I certainly, if he's getting this done at the MLB level, I just don't know. I don't think that I think I was wrong, or he had something wrong last year, and he just made some crazy developments this offseason and through this start of the year so far. He just might be popping off, man, and finding a new gear. And clearly he had that gear. He had some pedigree behind him, the first round draft pick and all that. But I'm just so, I'll be the first to, I wasn't a believer in Jackson Merrill this year so early, especially, and just completely blowing my mind. Congratulations, learning a brand new position too. Really exciting to see. And maybe I'll have your thoughts on that. But then I also want to contrast it with, I don't think the Padres are necessarily like miracle workers making the best decisions. I think they have a very aggressive general manager, but who also makes some weird calls. Like he called up CJ Abrams too soon. He called up Estuary Ruiz a little too soon. Slash, like, didn't give him time. And then they messed around with Graham Pauley to start this year. I guess that was maybe more so to, just to be safe with Manny Machado and all. But Pauley's looked great. So I would have loved to see the same commitment to Pauley as they're giving to Merrill. But yeah, maybe just if you want to talk a little Merrill, talk a little Pauley while you're at it. Probably want to crack it.
So I think the Padres situation in AJ Preller is a little different than Anaheim's situation, right? When we look at what Anaheim did with Detmers, the all of their first round picks basically, and their majority of their prospects, Neto and Nolan Chanel, I believe it was more because they were trying to build a product around Otani that was good enough to get to the postseason, right? Draft guys that are close enough where like we can continue to make a run for Otani as opposed to like taking the best available player. Now, I think what Preller does is more or less draft players off immense upside potential and looking for like specific tool sets. You see that with CJ Abrams, James Wood of past, right? And then you even see it in a Jackson Merrill signing of Ethan Salas. Like there's a very obvious upside approach, and then mixed with like high useful college bats and players of Paulie's stature. And there's another one. I can't think of his name. Maybe you can help me with. They have another prospect that's kind of floating around the system. I want to say outfield that pairs really well with Paulie. Anyways, when we look at Merrill, I really believe what they did with him was promote him before he was ready each time. I mean, you're talking about high A, double A, not getting the opportunity, age to level, to really play anywhere properly. And now he's developing into an adult body, or he's transitioning into an adult body at the major league level. I think it's almost impossible for us to really gauge where he is going to be as a pro, because the data is kind of incomplete and it's also unfair. And that's the profile I love the most to buy low on. Jackson Merrill was the guy when we got, conversation this year that he may break camp and start for them, was like, well, if they believe in him, I'm going to buy. I also feel like their situation, because of the TV contract deal, is very murky. They didn't have the money to go out and even add players that were, like a Rosario who's in Washington now. They decided to stay within the organization and promote Merrill and promote Paulie. Like, I don't necessarily think Paulie was the right answer because it, stinted his development short term, but Merrill clearly was. And he was a great buy low candidate this offseason. So I look for the future, and maybe the advice out of this situation to be, if organizations are going to trust their players and it's a decent buy low opportunity, Nolan Chenault, Jackson Merrill, even Zach Neto, I think when there was an opportunity back then, like, you got to at least understand that these are pro teams that are making decisions. Like, these aren't teams that are tanking like Oakland. Like, the Padres brought in Dylan Cease to compete. If they're going to start Jackson Merrill, they clearly believe in it. And if the Anaheim Angels are doing the same, like, you got to believe the guy's a big leaguer. That's the biggest takeaway I have.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, they thought the same thing about Abrams. It was a little too soon.
Yeah.
So they're not 100% foolproof, and maybe that was going into it with me and Merrill. But I think they're. I don't think we're due for some regression. I'm very curious to see where it's going to land. Let's see a stat. So, talking about like a guy who's going like 340, 420, batting average OBP is like, okay, well, like there's a huge range of outcome here, but I think looking at his minor league track record, I mean that average could easily still be above 280, which is fantastic as a rookie, especially.
Yeah.
And OBP is where I'm interested. Even if it's got a little jet plane overhead right now, I'm not sure if you're picking that up, but 340, 350 OBP would still be
What is he at
fantastic.
right now, Doc? Did you say 440?
He's at 419 on Baseball
Okay.
Reference. I don't want to go clicking
So
around,
you,
but
do you think
he's 2 for 3
370?
tonight. So
Okay.
do some math on that.
Do you think 370 is possible? Is
I
that
think that's outrageous.
no,
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 I
no,
don't
I
think
know
that's
that, but
possible.
you don't think so? You think 340 is more realistic?
340, and then if he's 350, I think he's a rookie of the year, one of the
Yeah,
favorites,
one of the
not the favorite.
favorites. Okay.
Because I mean, of course we dream of 373. I would want to know the leaders from last year. I would have to
Yeah.
assume 370 would put you among like the top 10 OBP guys.
Yeah. Well,
It's
and
pretty high.
I just think what we're seeing though is also a representation that maybe not necessarily he's a guaranteed bona fide all-star, but he is capable of performing very well at the major league. So no matter the struggles he may enter into as the season continues,
Yeah.
we know that this is capable. So it really comes down to, can he then make the adjustments? And if we can see him make the adjustments, I think we can forecast moving forward him to be a very good target and player. We again just may not know what that looks like because he's showing us the major league level. There's a name we talked about before we jumped on today. Do you think Colson Montgomery for the Chicago White Sox can emulate anything that Merrill is doing? He's a profile that I think is similar. I'm not sure we know the data enough.
Colson Montgomery, I mean, that's kind of a same kind of deal, except much different franchise.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where a lot of you look at all the rankings around the league, and I have them ranked fairly high. They're all like, yeah, just kind of banking on that development and those tools, right? Like, oh yeah, he hits the ball hard. Yeah, no, he's got that high baseball IQ. He plays some solid defense. Just a good big bodied kid who's going to put it all together. And you kind of, and then it's he was actually doing a lot of, he actually had like a 400 OBP in the minors. He had this high batting average too. Doesn't have the stolen bases. Um, I think that you might, that's actually not a terrible comp, and it's kind of,
I think they're
it's
similar.
funny. I think that might be similar.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully the White Sox, they need him to be kind of a cornerstone icon, over this generation kind of player, just based on what their franchise has been through lately. So they can only hope. And hey, Colson Montgomery's an Indiana boy, so I'm a little, I'm hoping extra that he does some good stuff there.
Yeah, and I wanted your opinion because I know that you're a high supporter of Montgomery, and I think that with the data we have with Montgomery and the injury last year and going to the AFL, similar to Merrill, where it's like, coming out of the draft as a high schooler, people had really high expectations of him, and the Corey Seager comp has been thrown on him by a number of different publications, but we just don't know enough yet. And Merrill was the same way. We just didn't know enough yet.
Hmm.
Soto, Alvarez, some of these other really big names that exploded onto the scene right away. It was like, well, you could see that there was just something there. And then look at Jackson Holliday, a little bit sluggish out of the gate. Now, honestly, Merrill was too. He wasn't great in that Korea series. He wasn't great the first couple games coming out, but he showed a lot of the skills you want. And here we are 12, 13 games later, where it's like, hey, he's having a good year. Let's give Holiday 13 games and reassess, right? I think that's the biggest key. Now, again, age is important for all these guys. Okay, we are going to move on. Now I'm going to throw a little wrinkle in the equation. As I said, we're going to talk about some of the pitchers that we like next on our rundown doc. That is actually at the bottom, but I want to stick with some of the developmental conversation we're having here as to how it pertains to the minor leagues. So you have a name to start that we're very excited about. Player that we've been tracking has been traded a couple times now and is also in the White Sox organization. So Drew Thorpe off to a very, very nice 2024. Doc, why don't you go ahead and talk about his numbers and where you're projecting Thorpe?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a crazy. I'm actually working on getting the mustache back out. I'm gonna throw some Just for Men in there and get rid of the rest of this garbage. I think maybe that's subconsciously just to emulate my hero, Drew Thorpe. It's funny. I mean, even the guys who, there's just so much baseball going on. If life just throws any curveballs your way, you can miss so much. And even if you're like on the ball, you're still gonna miss something because there's so many ball players, so many prospects on top of the MLB action we're trying to keep up with. Drew Thorpe is a guy who I've been, pretty high on. He was supposed to be a contender for the Padres rotation. Then he went off to Chicago, and we kind of just he just kind of disappeared. I'm like, well, he should be their ace now. Thank God, for them that Garrett Crochet's come out of nowhere and he's doing great. But I mean, Drew Thorpe, I was big on him just based on what we'd seen so far. And then honestly, I'm just a huge believer in innings pitched as the most underrated stat. He threw 140 innings last year in the minors. It's so beautiful with great numbers all around. Just a control artist. And so far to start 2024 at Double A, he's down in Alabama, in Birmingham, and he's got a point zero. So this is 0.82 ERA, 0.72, like around up to 7.3 whip. And he's got a 1.6 walk per nine and a 12.3 strikeout per nine. I mean, this dude's a dude. Get him up to AAA, and you know what? Let's not waste too much time after that. I want to see this guy. I think I'm not even a White Sox fan. I think the White Sox fans, throw him up there. I mean, maybe it's not the best for his development, but he looks like a dude on the mound. He's got shoulders like the Grand Canyon, and he's just he's a big body dude. He's got a presence. I just think people, the only real thing you hear about him is, oh, he's a change up first guy. I'm like, yeah, but some guys make that work. Some guys make that work. Now, can you get by with velo, with his fastball in the low 90s? We're going to find out. So far, I mean, if you can paint your pitches the way he's doing, he's clearly making progress here. It's very exciting. Although I should note that even in last year, in his 30 innings in Double A, he had a 1.5 walks per nine. I feel like he's not really discussed enough as a control artist. This could be a George Kirby, let's not talk about his last couple of starts kind of guy. This could be our next, like, so safe that he's fun guy. And I'm just excited for Drew Thorpe, and I was really pleased. I just looked at his numbers tonight before the podcast, and I said, "Oh my goodness, this is a stud. He's a unit. We got to see some Drew Thorpe soon."
All right, Doc. So I have even a better Kirby comp, and I want your opinion on him next. But I want to touch on Thorpe, and you know there were some question marks coming into Chicago. There were some question marks even last year before he left New York for San Diego of like, was this legit? I think now, a couple games into this season, into 2024, we're like, hey, he's given us everything we want. He's done it now in two organizations, and he's doing it in an organization that we have a lot of question marks revolving around, but also an organization that might not be that far off. I mean, if you call up Thorpe and Montgomery, Wilfred Veras, and you can start to build this foundation around Crochet. I think even Fetty's a nice 4-5 as you start to really build traction. Like he's not great, but better than some of the guys they were throwing out there last year. This organization could flip really quickly, but very excited about Thorpe. And I think when I kind of envision comps, I really like him to a Zach Gallen. Gallen came up as a changeup first guy with Miami before he was traded, didn't have the high velo, a lot of question marks attached to could he transition to the majors and still have success? So much so that I didn't even pick him up when he came up because I just thought, no, that profile no longer works. Here we are a few years later, and he's still out there doing really well. I think Thorpe could mirror a Zach Gallen, a 93, 94 type player who leverages that changeup. Do you think that's an okay comp?
Oh no, you can't do it. It's impossible. No way. Like that's what I feel like. I feel like people are like, "No way, you can't do it." It's like that's just get him up to AAA at least, so we can keep hushing people up when it comes to Drew Thorpe. We'll find out, man. I mean, Gallon, it wasn't overnight. It wasn't an overnight sensation necessarily, but he settled in. White Sox do have a bit of a pitcher's park. I'm happy that most of his development's already done. I honestly think he's ready, because that doesn't seem to me like the White Sox are fantastic with development. Just being very polite with that, and so yeah, I just we got to see it at this point because. I mean, frankly, if it's not really, even if it's the White Sox, they're not going to let him go do a sub one ERA and WHIP in Double A much longer. So it's April. We'll see how it goes the rest of the season. I'm just so happy because man, here's the thing: like we have guys like Jordan Hicks out there in the bigs right now, where people are like, "Oh, he's the next big thing. How did we not see this coming?" I'm like, I'm still not in. I can't be in this year at least because he's only done 65 innings max since 2017. 2017, he was a starting pitcher. That's what they were thinking in St. Louis. 105, I think, 105 innings, I think, that year. And yes, that's a long time ago. It's 7 years ago. So, I mean, physically, I don't think he could. He could maybe get to 100 this year. That's not really going to move the meter, too much in a roto league. It'll be okay if he can be this good. I mean, in a head-to-head league, you're not going to probably have him there for your championship unless something happens in between now and then. So, innings pitched, I can't stress it enough. We know this guy can do it, and he did it last year. I just hope, I hope he has a great rest of 2024 because I'm excited for Drew Thorpe.
Yeah, you wrote about Jordan Hicks in this week's Sunday Smoke, your article on Scout the Stat Line, which I liked. I think Crochet and Hicks are in the same boat. We said a couple weeks ago, I think 100 innings. You're lucky to get 100 innings out of both guys. And in Dynasty, that's okay. Like you'll make it work. In
Mm-hmm.
redraft, sell them and sell them now. Like if you can
Mm-hmm.
get a guy that's proven to throw 160 to 180 innings that's still healthy, you've probably
150. I mean,
yeah, honestly, I agree, right? Like, and we're past that mark, that invisible mark of Tommy Johns that was floating around the Twitter sphere, where it's like, hey, the spring training injuries should be over, and we should be experiencing in-season injuries. All that's so interesting for another time. But I think it's funny with Hicks in San Francisco. We're finally getting the profile that we thought we'd get from Alex Reyes, both former
mm.
Cardinals. We just have never been able to see Reyes actually pull it together like Hicks has been able to now. But exciting nonetheless. And I think, again, development is very key. So on to the next name, kind of did a little foreshadowing with maybe a true George Kirby comp. And I say that because Christian Scott is the next name on our list, a little bit older. He will be 25 years old this year in June. I would hope he makes his debut before then. starting off with a great start to his AAA campaign at 9 innings, 19 total strikeouts, a .89 whip, 4 ERA. Has had a couple home runs hit off him. But Doc, the reason I think we're seeing a similar projection to George Kirby is in 2023, he had a total of 87.2 innings, 87 and 2/3, 12 total walks to 107 strikeouts. And we have big time velocity here. So far this year, he has 19 strikeouts to 1 walk. I mean, I'm very excited about Scott. What do you think?
What's he throwing? What's his velo?
I want to say Scott's
Roughly.
a 98 guy. Let's look at his baseball
Yeah.
savant here.
Sure. I'll let you do that while I yammer away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm another Scott guy. It's funny. It's funny. I feel like Scott's the first time. I'll always give credit to the other Scott, Scott White. He was just. I was listening to one of his podcasts this off season. Whenever I hear off season, I always want to say like over the summer. I don't know what that is, but like, that's not when it was. It was the winter. And he was mentioning, yeah, people don't really know about this guy. Maybe it's because he's got it, or they know about him, but they see the relief pitcher designation. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, he's actually got great control numbers if you look. And so I heard control, and I'm like, for me, control is the new 103. You know, it's like throwing what, like, oh, this guy throws 103. I'm like, okay, well, he's got how long till his arm falls off, right? Like, and so Yarlin Susanna or Christian Scott. You know, I'm going with Christian Scott. You know, I'm going with Drew Thorpe. And so these guys, they're very similar looking guys. I mean, Thorpe's got double innings basically. You know, he's a frontline or not frontline. He's a workhorse starter at the least. But yeah, well, the reason I think people are probably getting a little bit more excited about Scott is because they not only have that control, but I do believe you're right that he's got some. It's higher than low 90s. I know. Whenever a guy throws low 90s, you'll always have someone pointing that out to you. Are you seeing that yet? You see what he's throwing?
I'm a failure. I have such a hard time on Baseball Savant actually referencing the exit or the velo numbers, exit velos, average velos. We were stumbling around with it a little bit this past weekend, and it's just not perfectly developed for the user yet.
I got you. I got you.
Um,
He can touch 99.
yes, he can definitely touch.
He
Yes,
throws 93 to 97 sitting there. So
that
he's
doesn't
fine.
that remind you of Kirby? Like that is, I feel like that's literally Kirby. I know Kirby is known for like a little more average velo though, right? Like 95 to 97.
Yeah, I'm not exactly
I
I don't have the
honestly, Doc,
numbers
I
in front of
think
me.
they're exactly the same. That's
They're the
that's
same
that's
guy.
what I'm
Look at
looking at.
that.
Yeah.
Drew Thorpe is playing in Birmingham, and Christian Scott's playing in he last year he was playing in Binghamton. I mean, even the name, they're the same guy. This is I've never seen them in the same room at the same time.
Yeah, it's the Spider-Man meme. Honestly, though, either of them, like we came into the year hyping up what Job and Skeens, Waldrep,
Mm-hmm.
Horton, Painter's out, so you weren't going to get to watch him. Those are just some of the names at the height of the pitching prospect tiers, and Scott and Thorpe were kind of in that second tier where it was like, hey, these guys have done really well, but we're not really buying into it because, like you said, they're not throwing 103. And we look
Mm-hmm.
now here at 2024, and sure, Skeens is doing his thing because he's the freak he is, but Jobs has had a little bit issues. He has 6 walks. He is only 1 walk away from his total before the Arizona
Wow.
fall last year. Incredible.
Still so early. Still so
It
early,
is, and
but
I don't want to
worth noting. Worth
worth
noting.
noting. Waldrip completely imploding in 2 starts. Point being is these were the safe picks, Thorpe
Mm-hmm.
and Scott. Who are
I,
performing well? The safe picks.
just saying, if y'all want to follow, if you all want to win in fantasy, I don't know if you like winning or losing, but I had a Drew in March, early March. Like it was actually late February when I did them. Drew Thorpe, 21 overall prospect. Painter, 22 because he's still so good. 27 was Christian Scott. 28 was Jackson Job. Because of this, because we didn't
Damn.
fully know what we're getting, and Job has the upside to go to leapfrog. Absolutely, I think his stuff is so
I'm
nasty if he can put it together. And then yeah, but and I do have Skeens above them all.
I'm proud of you. That's great. I have Job right behind Skeens, and I don't feel stupid about it.
That's not stupid.
I just feel like what you did was you took a rational approach to it, where I was thinking more or less of Job's improvement and possibly regression from Scott and Thorpe. I just didn't see them continuing to be who they were, and it's like, well, I mean, Thorpe is even better, and Scott is proving hey, I'm ready. I think Scott's
Well,
the
Joe.
next one up.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, yeah. Scott's. I mean, yeah. The Mets. Unfortunately, everyone's hyping him up. I was kind of hoping I
I
could
know.
sneak Scott in and a couple like shallower redraft leagues. I was like, yeah, I can get him later, and everyone blew my cover. Yeah. So just looking at Joe real quick, I'm still not too worried about that. It's like that's a lot of walks, but I'm just like I need to see the innings. I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but I mean, what did we got last year? We got about between the fall league and the rest of it. He played about 80, pitched about 80 innings last year, and he had some injury issues. So I'm not saying he can't overcome those, but it's like I want to see it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
want to see
I
it.
want to see it approach. I understand that completely. Yeah, so he had 8 total walks last year. Um,
That's crazy.
let's see here. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. He had 6 total walks in 64 innings. Again, this is non-AFL. He had 6 walks in 64 innings. He has 7 walks. So one more walk than 2023 in 5 and
Crazy.
2/3 pitched. You said it, Doc. Not to over evaluate this, but it's early, but something to note and something to be mindful of. Okay, so next on the list, right before we get to I think the two most interesting names here is Paul
Okay.
Skeens. I don't think we have to talk too much about this. He is shoving 55 innings this past week. I watched it. I think we'll probably see 65 to 70 pitches his next start. And then, Doc, I think maybe just one more start in the minors after that, and he might be up. What do you think?
They're doing something weird. So and after the holiday thing, it's like, dude, I'm kind of trying to chill out a bit. Like they're
Yeah.
gonna be up. They're not keeping. Hey guys, guess what? He's gonna be up this year, and it's not gonna be the end of the year. It's probably not even gonna be the middle of the year. It might be May. It might be May. What they're doing is they're giving like these 3 inning little bursts, and I would hope and think that before they bring him up, they're gonna give him let him stretch out a bit more than that. And I'm very happy to do so as an Indiana fella because he plays for the Indianapolis Indians. And I got kind of a little bit. I had tickets for what I thought was going to be his opening game. I actually have been very quiet about that because I miscalculated it. They should have had him at the Indianapolis home opener. They put him in Louisville in like the second or third game. Made no sense, like on the road, right? Anyway, I got tickets right now for what I think is going to be his next start. I'm looking at the schedule. It should be his next start. Hopefully he stays. Everyone else is so mad. They're like, shut up, man. We don't care. We want him up right now. I got tickets for April 30th in Indiana, and after that, he has my blessing to move on. And hey, who knows? Maybe that's the game they let him go 6 innings, and then I would hope and think that whenever you see him go for 5 or 6 innings or more, maybe that's your sign. I mean, I would hope they wouldn't just be classic Pittsburgh making silly moves and send him from 3 innings to hey, you're in the big leagues now. Go try to give us a quality start.
Are
I mean,
you
and in terms of his performance, there's I have almost nothing to say. Guy throws gas, controls it. He's a beast on the mound. He's got Thorpe presence with 102, and he's a guy where like I see his legs are the size of you
yeah,
know,
trains?
okay, yeah. I'm not really concerned about him blowing his arm out. It can happen to anyone, but I think he'll be okay.
Well, I had
What were
this
we gonna?
in
Mhm.
conversation the other day in regards to like the elbow being blown out. And we were speaking on Yuri Perez, and I said, well, you just look at the difference in professional acumen, ability, and discipline. Again, professionally. You've mentioned this Skeens military guy, former military guy. Yuri
Mhm.
Perez, string bean, right? Coming
Mhm.
into a organization that's very careful with their pitchers, also not known for like physical body development. And I said outright, I would have way more confidence in Paul Skeens coming back from Tommy John in the expected time frame and doing so effectively than a guy like Yuri. I mean, Skeens has built his life off discipline and working out and being a professional and coming to this level and doing this. I think of it as like very Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander esque. Where Yuri, it's like, I don't know, maybe Tommy John cost him 2 years, not necessarily in the full recovery, but in the ramp back up and in finding his control. And it's no disrespect to Yuri. He's younger and he hasn't had the same path that Paul Skeens has had. So I just say that because I think it's worth monitoring in dynasty leagues when you're dealing with these injuries and who you're actually evaluating. No case is the same. Andrew Painter's 2 years that he's been out. Casey Myers was almost 2 years. Like that's a long time to be out. and we just assume they're going to come back and play well. So just something to be very mindful of. All right, Doc, I got two more names. So both performing very, very well at the minor league level so far this year, both in AAA, and both pitching for competitive big league teams. One, the retaining world champions, Texas Rangers, and then one, the very hot young Baltimore Orioles. That is Cade Povich for the Orioles and Jack Leiter for the Rangers. These numbers are pretty nice. Povich, 5 innings, 10 Ks just the other day. And then Leiter's numbers, I mean, he is just lighting up the minor leagues with strikeouts and doing pretty good with walks as well. But I want to see what you thought. Who are you more excited about, and who do you think can maintain a successful major league career?
Love to watch these guys pitch. I'm going to be completely honest. I've never seen these guys pitch, which, I got to. It's just there's so many games. I'm trying to watch them all at the major league level. I'm sure I've seen clips of Leiter. Here's the thing. I I was out on Jack Leiter. Just I'm seeing control issues his whole career, and really no impressive minor league numbers. I think it's and I think I know why his hype was so high. He had a daddy who played, and you know that I'm not necessarily like a baseball historian per se. I don't know. I'm still trying to learn more every day. But I know he has a daddy who played because my father-in-law gave me a box of baseball cards, and from it's like this 89, 89 packs, this whole friggin' huge box. And this guy named Al Leiter shows up. I looked at his face. I said, "That's." I didn't question. I said, "That's Jack Leiter's dad." It looked like the same guy. It was creepy, man. I was like, "Holy yeah, that's his clone." So that must have been it. People saw the pedigree, and Texas is doing things right. And hey, so far so good, man. I'm happy for the kid. I like Texas. I like the way they run things down there, and in terms of the franchise, and it's just like you want. It's like the anti-Oakland, anti-athletics. I guess we're gonna start calling them. I think I'll be able to I'll call them Oakland out of protest or something. But
You could call them
but the
Sacramento Athletics as well. I mean,
oh,
that's
I honestly will. It'd be so fun.
I mean, it's
Um,
it's it's fair going into 2025. Yeah.
How's Sacramento feel about that? That's so crazy too. You're probably don't you want them to buy some tickets? And you're just gonna tell them, nah, we're not gonna call it Sacramento. Nah, you don't get it. You're not in the name. Like this, but this is what I mean though, right? Like it's kind of the anti-athletics thing. Anyone who's on the A's, I get a little bit nervous. It's just like you got that toxic aura around you. Whereas with the Rangers, yeah, no, I want to believe in what they're doing, and so far so good in 2024 for Leiter, and then Povich. Similar kind of deal. I think those are a good couple guys to bring up. It looks like both guys were pretty solid in college and didn't really carry over. You know, I would say that Povich. If you put a gun in my head and told me who's having the better career, though, I'd still say Povich just
Yeah.
because he didn't have like the as bad of walk. I'm always leery of that. If you have control issues in the minors, are you really going to be better? When it comes to when you have to face Aaron Judge, when you have to face, the stars. Apparently, just Aaron Judge, but the stars of MLB, right? It's a lot more pressure. You're a little bit nervous to pitch anywhere on the, to Mr. Shohei Ohtani or someone like that, right? So I would still say Povich. We'll see what happens. It's a good case of redemption for both of them. I'm rooting for basically every prospect who's a you know reasonably decent human being.
Yeah, no, I share your opinion with Povich, and it's because of what I'm just seeing within Leiter's numbers this year. 25 strikeouts to 3 walks. It's not that it concerns me. It's just in the 14 and the third innings, he's 11 hits. Average against is a .208, so not terrible. I just think the past control problems, the past mechanical issues for Leiter have gotten the organization to push him down a more aggressive pitching approach, and he's a smaller body guy that doesn't top out at 103 like Paul Skeens. And like you said, when you get to the big leagues and you start facing the big boys, it's different when you're locating on the plate. Like look at Kirby over the last couple weeks. We have a big concern here in the industry. Some do at least that like Kirby's lost. And it's like no, Kirby's just throwing in the zone. He needs to be more comfortable with giving up a walk or two, and it's okay to do that if that's part of your plan. And that was part of Leiter's plan coming into the minor leagues, and it just didn't work because his stuff wasn't crisp enough. People weren't swinging at his pitches like they were at Vanderbilt. So there's a lot more
Mhm.
question marks, I think, with Leiter. I don't think there's the number 2, number 3 upside in the draft kind of projection for him either. And then Povich just flat out is a bigger body guy. I have more confidence in bigger body guys to be able to tap into something a little bit more or maintain that ability to strike guys out. But I do think 2 good names to know, because if they haven't been picked up yet in redraft, I think they're just behind the Christian Scotts. And with Leiter, we have an injury with Bradfield in the back just this past week. So they're continuing to have injuries. Now, Lorenzen did pitch tonight, 5 innings, no runs, which was really nice, making his first appearance on the year. But I think Leiter he's first man up after the signing of Lorenzen. So he might be up first. Now, Povich, we know what Baltimore has, right? They've got Kramer and they have Wells. Like, it could be the same timing. Baltimore
Mhm.
needs to win, and their guys at the back end of the rotation they're questionable. So I think either one will probably be the next called up, and I think by mid-season they're both up.
I'm not really on board with that bold of a projection, but we'll see by the end of the season if there's any arms left in Major League Baseball.
Well, and that's
All
right.
these
That's where we're
injuries.
trending.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
every year we're trending that way, but I have to project that. Like, I mean, look at Bradford. Literally just went down. I think it was yesterday, and we were just about to talk about it in
It's
a
a shame.
yeah, like just
Yeah.
about to be like, hey, how great is this? Oh, wait a minute, like
Hmm.
already injured. So you might be right. It might be a little aggressive to say that, but I do like them as stashable guys. It's just Scott is definitely the number one stash. All right, Doc, we're going to be moving on here. Last segment of the day. We're going to talk about some of the prospects that are finally performing. And first one on that list for us is Colton Cowser for those Baltimore Orioles we just spoke on. Question coming into the year was he going to get playing time? We kind of figured that out through the first 12, 15 games here. Not only is he getting playing time, he is cashing in. This past week was his breakout week, and he hit waiver wires hard this weekend. What are your thoughts on Cowser, and do you buy this mini breakout? Do you think he continues, and where are you kind of projecting him rest of this season?
Do you have stink bugs in Vegas? I don't think you would.
No, in
You know,
Wisconsin we
you know,
did.
yeah. By the way, your Wisconsin accent, I forgot to call you out on it. You were on a good little tangent there, so I didn't want to stop you. But I think you went up said something a few years. You did something funny. It was I don't it sounded I was like oh we
Did
got
it
a
come
little.
out? Yeah.
It came out. It was yeah out of the woodwork. I'm in on Cowser, and I had him ranked weird because I didn't know. I think anyone who's telling me anyone outside of his immediate family telling me, "Oh my goodness, Michael Busch just rocked one. He
Yeah, I
just
was just
rocked
gonna
one.
interrupt you, and I was like,
It's
"Are you?"
out."
He's next on our he's next on our list, and I was like, "Oh, could you not have waited 1 minute, Matt? Like, just
Dude, so
say him
cool.
first."
That's so cool. Okay. That's so cool. I'm so happy for him. So I'm like, I've gone from
Oh
like,
my
okay, I
gosh!
honestly, same kind of deal though. I mean, we'll do Cowser. I'm so excited for him.
Let's just do Bush.
I
We'll
can't
get
wait to talk
back
about.
to Kaiser. Let's just
Okay,
go right
sorry.
into Bush.
So crazy. So it's so funny because I was just on this what do you call it, the Dynasty Guru Discord, which we share with Scout the Stat Line. One of the many perks you get with Scout the Stat Line
You know, wait,
memberships
wait, wait.
is
I'm gonna completely interrupt you again here. So every one of his home runs coming into this year was with 2 strikes. That one was also with 2 strikes.
which
That's
is just a
crazy.
boss.
That's just crazy. Like,
So I had people kind of I had people telling me on this Discord like this was like after his second or third game in a row. I think it was maybe right after his second home run game, and then we were in the discussion, and they said, "Oh yeah, who would you cut out of these 4 guys?" And some people were saying Bush. And I said, "Whoa, not right now." And then someone else was saying, "I don't know if I believe in him." I said, "Based on what? I mean, like he's getting his opportunity." Then he hit his third home run, and they're like, "All right." That's not bad. And then the next day,
and then his
I
fourth,
replied to it.
and his
I
fifth.
said just a heads up that was the fourth if you're keeping track.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like I'm gonna go in and flex immediately after this podcast, of course. So shout out to Drew Klein. and Chris Knock, who operate the Join the Ranks podcast. If they,
I
Drew
like
always
that
likes to
name
listen
a
to.
lot, actually. I like that name a lot.
Yeah, we should just steal it.
Yeah. Join
Join
the
the ranks,
ranks
but
too.
join the ranks, but better.
Join the ranks. Join the ranks and keep Michael Busch. You're like trying to like
Yes.
incorporate Michael Busch into it.
Just to be clear, I was not. It was not those guys who are anti Bush. No. So this is great for the kid. I'm like a guy who was never really like. I have a weird thing with Dodgers prospects. It's like it's the opposite of maybe of a White Sox or Rockies prospect, where it's not that I don't. I think they're going to make great prospects and great baseball players, but we're seeing right now that it could. Michael Busch might be a cornerstone first baseman for dynasty squads. He might be someone you're going to want on your roster for a long time. And the Dodgers said, "You're not good enough for our team." Like, we're going to keep you hostage at AAA while you mash 300, with a 400 OBP or whatever it was.
Well,
And for, but for, mhm.
I was just gonna say, but not only are you not right for our team, but like we would rather pay Muncy. We would rather like start or roster and try and make Gavin Lux work.
Well,
And
Matt Muncy's good. Let's not put
no,
those
no,
two in
I
the
know,
same
but the
sentence. But yeah.
difference is I'm just saying in money, right? Like say Muncy's
Yeah,
10
sure.
million.
Yeah.
Bush is, I don't know, the 700,000-800,000, whatever the minimum for the rookies is. Like that, not that the Dodgers care, obviously, but a lot of organizations, that's the deciding factor. Like I think for the Cubs, it was, like we trade for Bush, we save money, or we sign, just say Matt Chapman at third, and we figure out first. Like they made the right decision. They hit the right button.
Where they're pitching in Arizona right now too. So this is the thing. I mean, Wrigley is often forgotten as a hitter's park, especially when the wind's blowing just right. And so, oh yeah, we're gonna have some listeners out there who are like, oh, is Doc high? Because I remember I just brought up stink bugs and never addressed it again. Yeah, so I had a
Yeah,
stink
that
bug
way I just
moment.
completely
Yeah.
forgot that you did that. Yeah. What
We
was
should
the
have let it
purpose of
slide.
that?
I just ruined it. I ruined
You
it.
went right into
So no,
accent. Yeah, I think that's why. I think that's why.
oh yeah, because we're talking. Yeah, exactly. Talking about regions. So no, it was on my ring light. But you don't want to go and like flick a stink bug off your ring light or touch one or make him distressed because he stinks the whole joint up. They won't stink unless you mess with them. Anyway, he just fell off and it reminded me.
Interesting.
So yeah, I was held hostage by a stink bug, just like Michael Busch. Oh, the transition. Just like Michael Busch was held hostage by the Los Angeles Dodgers, and so I'm happy he's freed. I think. I mean, his profile is he a 280 average, 350 OBP upside? I think that's his upside. And if he can hit me 25 to 30 home runs, dude, I'm in. And the Cubs, they say are showing they want to spend on managers. They want to spend on, they're willing to give Belly another shot. And if he can, remember how to play baseball again because he's not doing it so far, they'll give him a big contract and they'll spend. They'll put my point is they're gonna have a good lineup. I think in the years to come. Michael Busch, I've gone from this guy who just I didn't know what to think of him. Quad A player, maybe, I don't know. Like you said with the Padres, I trust that the Dodgers kind of know what they're doing. So if they don't think he's that good or they don't want to give him a shot, maybe they're right. Maybe I leaned into that. But somehow, folks, if he's on your wire, I don't know. I mean, I play in some Yahoo leagues. He was sitting on wires like a week ago, or maybe it was a little more than that. But I managed to scoop him up, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, he's still there. I'm very lucky, and I've been rewarded. We are on the come up because both leagues that are roto leagues. You're in one of them. I've not been doing great to start. I had George Kirby holding me back. Michael Busch, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I am falling right in line with you, and I think the start could be a little ambitious, especially with him hitting home runs at 0-2 or 1-2, having the two strike approach. Like most players are going to shorten up. He's clearly just taking to the approach that like my approach from start to finish is going to be the same, which is funny because that was Tony Gwynn's approach. Very different players, but I am excited because this is something that we kind of thought was a possibility. I just didn't know it would be as soon. A and B, we now have to see what the transition for the league is. Are they going to stop throwing him fastballs? Are they going to stop pitching him the way he's been pitched? Because
This is Merrill Kelly. He's not like a bum or
no, for
anything,
sure, like I would agree with that, but they have to be just viewing him as any other rookie. I think back to Ryan Braun's rookie year. They threw him nothing but meatballs for about 3 months, and he hit, and he hit, and he hit, and he hit, and then when you actually look at his career as a whole, that was the best stretch of his entire career was actually as a rookie because they just continued to
Mm.
throw him pitches. So, I wanna see what the adjustment is. How quickly do people make adjustments, and how does Bush perform? Now, again, like I said with Jackson Merrill Kelly, Jackson Merrill, I almost got confused. I wanna see also what is a more average profile for him, but we also know now that this is possible. Because this is possible, it almost makes him undroppable rest of season for me. Because
Mhm.
I mean, hell, he can change your week. He can take your 4 homers in 1 week and win you a category that week. That's huge. Like he was the best player on waivers, in the league I actually wanted you to join, and it's funny because RF actually picked him up in the team that you would have had, but him and Cowser were on the wire up until Sunday, and they both went for what they should have, which was at least a tenth of fab budgets, and I was trying to tell people, like, these are the last 2 starters on the waiver wire, probably rest of season until we have promotions. These guys need to be rostered, and they need to be started right now.
100%. Yeah. I'm excited for the guy. And like I had people on Twitter this week even saying, "Are you sure? Like, should I pick?" I'm like, someone was asking me, "Yeah, an 8-teamer." I'm vindicated because this was just today. I said, "Who 8-teamer?"
Who's
That's a
playing
little
in an
tricky.
8-teamer? No disrespect to any of you out there. I just hell, get me in that. I'm down.
Yeah, no, it's I said I think he has to be universally rostered at this point.
And we're still talking about Michael Busch, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. What about Cowser?
Can you?
Is Cowser universally do you think he should be universally rostered as well or not so much?
Um, I think that my computer almost crashed, so we're so good right now. This is a destined podcast, folks, because we came back and we're just as good as we were before. So, Colton Cowser, yeah. I mean, we need to see more. The thing with Bush was that he was kind of hitting all even to start the year. This is why I was so surprised he was still on the waiver wires and the free agency pool was because he was hitting the ball. He was hitting RBIs. It's just like it wasn't. So we love home runs. We love them so much. Like Langford, people. I feel like it almost feels like he's not doing that well. You look at his numbers; he's doing fine. He just doesn't have that flash yet. Cowser's doing quite the opposite right now. He's gone out and said, "I'm gonna bash some. I'm gonna bash some bombs here." Do I expect him to continue? He's got a funny profile. People were like, "Is he going to be a platoon guy?" His minor league's full of 400 plus OBP years. In fact, that's all he did. um, and but he struck out a bit too, which was I wasn't sure. His home runs they weren't like jumping off the charts. Um, and so but I liked what I saw. He seems like a matured young man, and he's just won himself an everyday role, and so you have to pick him up wherever he is, unless you're in an 8-teamer. I saw the pool. Like, guy showed me the pool. It's pretty crazy. But even that 8-teamer, we're getting to a point. It's such a potent offense. You have to add him and think this could be a guy who I don't like the word phrase league winner, but
Yeah.
someone who's really important to your roster all year long instead of just some guy who's a hot you ride that. There's guys who you ride that hot streak out, and there's guys who they're year long winners for you, year long ride or die guys.
Yeah. Well, and I think a couple of the names that just come to mind from what you're mentioning there are some of the names we've talked about in the last couple of weeks where we're like, well, we're not sure, small sample size, like there's questions to be had. Will Benson was one of those names that I was coming into the year thinking maybe he's a league winner, maybe he's not. Like we kind of have to
We still
see.
don't know.
Still don't
He's
know,
doing
but
both.
I
Yeah.
think Michael Busch falls in that bag for me right now. If I had to put money on a guy that's like in my my starting lineup that I'm depending on come championship week, I think he's probably in there. I think another name that we talked about last week, I just pulled our outline up, MJ Melendez. I've lost steam on Melendez. I was really excited about him
Yeah.
last year or last week.
But who knows? It's just one week,
Yeah, just one
right? It's
week.
so early.
But those names are
hmm
definitely starting to kind of finalize. I think, or
I'm
at least we're
excited.
we're getting more excitement, like you were just gonna say.
I'm excited. I'm just excited to see like I think a month is like you. It's and we. I think we were talking before the podcast. That yeah, we were talking, and I said a month is a lot of good data. That said, you could have a awful, horrendous April,
Yep.
and if you killed it the rest of the season, the whole off season, and no one's talking about that April. We forget about it. But right now, this is like it's Michael Busch, it's Colton Cowser, like it's and MJ will lose his team. Like it's just such and things can swing. It's all the data we have right now. When combined with previous results, but it's so fun. It's such a fun game, such a long. Whereas fantasy football, we have a lot of folks who they play fantasy football. They come on over. You don't have 6 months. You
Yep.
have if after the first month you got to start making judgments or else you miss
Yep.
playoffs. In fact, your fantasy team could actually struggle for 2 months straight. And as long as you crush it, depending on how bad the damage is, as long as you crush it the rest of the way out, you can win. Of course, you can win.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fantastic point. Yeah. In fantasy football, if you go 1-3 or 0-4, the season's almost over. You can lie to yourself, and you might be able to scrap it together to make the playoffs, but the likelihood is the season's probably already over. In baseball, it's just like, all right, well, I win 2 weeks in a row, and now all of a sudden I'm tied for the team that's last into the playoffs. Like that's how drastic things can change in fantasy baseball, and why I think we love the sport. To what you were just saying, and this is a name that you threw out earlier. We've talked about this before we jumped on today. I just want to highlight Gunnar Henderson's 2023 because it was a tale of two sides. April, 22 games. He hit 197, 27 total strikeouts, 15 walks. So not terrible. OBP was still at a very respectable 345. I think there was, that was the big telling sign in the industry was, hey, it's okay. But still, batted 197 in April. May had 27 games played, batted 213 with a 315 on base percentage. So I would argue it almost got worse for him um, come May. And then in June, things start to change, right? 320 average in 20 games, 354 OBP, coming in at June at a 245 and excuse me, July 245, and then August 282, and then September 275. This was the AL Rookie of the Year in 2023, and he had a horrendous April and May from the average perspective. So that goes right in line with what you just said. Like we could really eliminate some of these guys as value pieces, but then you just have to remember that Gunnar Henderson for a stretch there was helping people not only win weeks but win championships.
Precisely, and yeah, I mean he's looking like, and you looked at his stat cast. He's still fast. He didn't lose the speed. It was unclear to me if it was Baltimore telling him not to run, or he was just so focused on hitting. Maybe he didn't want to risk getting hurt. I don't know what it was, but he's running this year, and is 30-30 possible? I don't know, but 30-20 looks like it might be, and he was already exciting without the steals. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Just a
guns
reminder,
blazing.
early is early, but Bush and Cowser are some names that
Great
we are
points.
excited about.
Great points.
I got one more name, Doc. We're gonna skip over Bryce Trang because you know
Great.
we're gonna skip over him. Reid Detmers is the last name we're gonna talk about tonight. This was a player that you actually traded for in a 30 man,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been waiting a number of years for Detmers to break out. He falls in line with that Angels approach that I talked about earlier. That probably rushed development. Detmers out of Louisville was an exciting player. Also, if you don't know from the listener's perspective, pitched behind Bobby Miller in that Louisville rotation. Miller obviously going to the Dodgers and then Detmers going to the Angels, both LA now. But finally, I think showing a little more consistency. We've seen flashes. We've seen 10 strikeout games. We saw a no hitter. Do you think this is Detmer's true breakout season?
Well, first of all, I'm like triggered every time I hear the word Louisville now because anytime I
Okay, how do
say
I
Louis,
pronounce it properly?
well, no, you're probably it's King Louis.
Okay,
King.
King
That's what
Louis.
they named it after from France. So Louisville would be probably the normal way to say it. But when I'm here in Indiana or the South or anywhere, No, it's Louisville, like almost
Louisville, Lullville,
Louisville.
Louisville,
Yeah,
Louisville.
it's Louisville. Yeah, it's like if you don't say it like that, they're like Louisville. Like I don't know, it's just like a funny thing. So I almost want to when at first people started calling me out, I said last time you say Louisville, and I started saying Louisville just to trigger. So
Just to be a
yeah,
troll.
yeah, just to trigger. Detmers. So Detmers is a funny guy. I know pitcherless fella Nick Pollock. Big on this guy, but even then, like, I think the people who were the biggest Detmers fans after last year were kind of like, oh, maybe he's not exactly who we thought or maybe we should pump the brakes. I mean, he's still young. Was he 24 still? And I'm looking at his numbers here, and on Statcast, oh my gosh, just red everywhere. So it's nice to
It
see.
is. His
Uh,
Statcast is nice. Yeah.
it's beautiful. His numbers should apparently be even better, or no, they're going to be apparently projected to be pretty darn good. But yeah, you look at the last couple of years. I mean, he already broke out in 2022, 129 innings he pitched. Reid Detmers to a 3.77 ERA, which this year I'll be like, yeah,
Okay, sorry.
baby. Uh,
Again, I'm miscalculating my words here, Doc. When I say
oh, it's
breakout
okay.
with him, I meant to say like, is he entering like
hmm
SP2 territory, right? Like
Yeah, no, I
top,
know what you mean.
yeah, top 20, 25.
Because he was all over free agency and waiver
Yeah.
wires this year. He was not sought after, and frankly, I wasn't really pursuing him. So the deal in our 30-man league, uh, I'm loving it now, but it was kind of just like me throwing a dart because I knew he had some upside. I knew he had flashed in the past. I think everyone remembers these flashes. Detmers, even last year, he's gone on these little stretches where he just throws you, or even just a game or two, like I don't know where he'll just throw like a 12 strikeout game and then he'll get blown up or something like that. Yeah, I traded him, basically him for Rainer Arias, if you want to break it down to like who matters in the deal. Which Arias, I know you love Arias. I think he's
Love
got
him.
high upside, but he could also be like 3 years away, kind of guy. Detmers, I I want an extra pitcher, and man, that's working out because he's looking like an ace. I mean, you're an SP2, yeah. That's certainly. I mean, dude, if he puts it all
In a
together and
no, but
keeps
in
it
a
rolling.
30-man, Doc, like a
Oh yeah,
24-year-old SP2 in a 30-man, like that's a hell of a hit. I don't care who
he's
you gave
expensive.
up.
So send me a bat because I keep on going 500 every week because I win every pitching category and I can't win any hitting categories. So that's the Javi Baez effect. So yeah, Detmers. I'm buying it for now. I mean, I'm buying it at cost. I don't know if I'm. I think in Dynasty, I'd send a feeler out to see if other people, maybe the GM isn't fully bought in or is pleasantly surprised. If you're getting someone who's been a truther this whole time, I seriously doubt this is when you're going to get him, or when you'd
It's
want to pay
funny,
for him.
most of the truther, well, that's not sad. My best friend's a truther, and this was the first year he fully gave up.
Yeah.
And this has happened in our, semi dynasty home league for 12 years. As soon as someone gives up, and they've like banged the drum for 3 or 4 years, you always know that he's gonna break out. Like it's like fantasy destiny, right? The truther finally gives up. It's like, oh yep, everybody target that guy this year because he's breaking out. And Detmers did.
Yeah, no, good for him. And the Angels are surprising. They won again tonight. Trout's back. I'd be
Hmm.
selling Trout. It's a harsh truth, but it's the injury factor. No, so but yeah, great to see it from Detmers. Hope he can keep it up. He's got a nice four pitch mix. He's a true starter. He's logged the innings. He's someone you could probably count on for 150 plus this year. I mean, even last year, even on an off year, 4.48 ERA, but with that, he gave you not a great whip either, to be honest, a really bad one,
Yeah, the
1.35.
walks have always been an issue.
And yeah, that's it, right? And then he gave you 168 strikeouts in
Hmm.
148 innings. So I mean, I feel like early on, it just feels like pitching is such a war zone, especially with our trusted guys like Ober and Kirby. Trusted. They're supposed to be safe kind of options. They're getting blown up early on, and then the elite guys. What happened?
Self Relic just forgot the wall was there.
And
Um,
oh yeah, just ew no yeah. That's an
he's
ankle.
fine, but like,
Okay,
why
I
would
saw
you?
that just
That
now.
was
Yeah.
unnecessary. Like,
Okay. As your
that.
Brewers fan, you're especially nervous as a
Oh, I
Brewers
just mean
fan.
as a human being, dude. Like,
Yeah.
that looked
yeah.
painful.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
cow. Yeah, he seems to be
But
okay.
yeah, he looks completely fine. But no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it looks a little
So
bit gritty.
this is
But
something
mhm.
funny, Doc.
Go on.
I looked at Randy Johnson, and it's not fair to comp anybody to Randy Johnson. That's not what I'm trying to do here, people. But just hear me out. You look at
Graham
Randy Johnson,
Ashcraft.
Graham Ashcraft.
He's the next Randy Johnson.
I mean, so it might be. um, so when you look at
I'm like I have this irrational love for Graham. I
I
just
mean,
want him to do
he
well because
might be, but
no, I'm just messing around. People, please do not take that seriously.
Johnson's numbers up until 26, 27, age 26, 27 weren't fantastic. I mean, he was the big unit, right? Big, tall, strong, strikeouts, big time walk problems, higher ERA. And then overnight, it clicked. And he became one of the
Hmm.
greatest pitchers of all time. Obviously, age, durability, velocity, talent, all of that came together. But the reason I bring up Randy is because I am now looking at profiles like Reid Detmers where, hey, they struggled with a little bit of command. They still had the ability to make strikeouts. They're young, under 25, maybe under 26. And if they can still have that longevity, that durability that Reed has proven to have, my belief is if that they will figure out how to be more efficient at the major league level. Those walks will come down, those strikeouts may even tick up, and you're going to have a damn good starter on your hands. Reed Detmers is like the profile of that. We've just been waiting, but we've been waiting because the Angels probably promoted him too early, and he's been trying
Yeah.
to develop at the major league level. So I think we're talking about a potential top 20 SP starter for the next
Hmm.
10 years when
Oh,
Detmers.
that'd be cool. That'd be
Um,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm willing to go that high yet. But so, geez, man, I wish I had him in more leagues. I don't have him
same.
in. I don't have them really everywhere, but that's man, you get them in a 30 team, it feels like you have them everywhere. So,
Yeah, it does.
it's like I'm set.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I hope the best for him, and yeah, it's always cool, man. Especially when you're having the year we're having, the start of the year with a pitcher crisis. When you have a breakout, and I hope that Mackenzie Gore can keep things going. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny how things can change. He was like this.
Watch
Mhm.
Jamer pimp this ball.
I'm on this delay, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're a
like
second or two behind me.
yeah,
He pimped the ball like I don't think I've ever seen before.
off of George Kirby. Well, at least it was a
It was
solo
a
shot.
solo
Kirby,
shot.
yeah, Kirby through, not quite through two yet. Hasn't completely imploded, so let's just limit this damage. From my psyche, I have him in
Look
a
at this
few
pimp. I mean, it's
leagues.
like he said like a golf swing. Maybe I am overreacting here, but like he had
When
full
you say pimp,
extension. Like he's it wasn't a bat flip. It was like when he swung, he held the swing like he knew it was a home run.
mm-hmm.
And I mean,
What do you think? What do you think about pimping when you're down? When you're down a
yeah,
couple runs? I
it's
don't
probably
know.
talking about the Acuna or the Vlad bullshit that they do where they like, make a show of it around the bases. I just think it's stupid. I have no problem with showing off. I have no problem with showing excitement or any of that kind of thing, but like
Hmm.
make it mean something, right?
Yeah,
Like
if you do it
otherwise
every, if you, mhm.
yeah,
Sorry, go
you
on.
look stupid. Like it's the same thing in the
Yeah,
NBA when the guys hit a three down by 30 or like make a slam dunk. It's like you realize you look pathetic. Like you look like an idiot.
yeah. And I think the fans know. I think we all know. It's like you know it when you see it, right? Like when Harper's doing his stare down in the playoffs last year, it's like, well, if you're gonna do it, that's a moment, right? That's
Hmm.
a moment. Of course, Harper's always doing stuff, but it's like if you have the same little routine every single home run, well, it dilutes it, and it seems like that being like that this ego thing is that's your shtick, as opposed to that's necessarily an organic moment kind of thing. And I certainly I can get on board with Harper. I think everyone in the sport, other than I mean the Phillies arch rivals and their fans, I'm sure pretty much everyone. Like the Braves probably did not appreciate Harper, but I think a lot of people appreciate those real live organic flexes.
Yeah, well, and I think that goes right
And I'm
into
an old school guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So am I, but I like what Tatis does way more than what I like what Acuna does because I think when a Tatis does it, it's usually an emotionally charged moment, and
Mm-hmm.
it happens to be usually against good teams. Like, sorry Acuna, but you're playing the
Sure.
Marlins and you're playing the Nationals and you're playing the unlucky Mets. Like, I know the Phillies are in there too, but like Tatis shows off, but I kind of feel like it's more justifiable moments. We're getting off topic here. We're gonna wrap it here because my dog is definitely pissed again. Real quick, Doc. So for those listening that aren't too familiar with Rainer Arias, last year had a wrist injury in the DSL. This is a Giants prospect. He's 17. He will turn 18 on the 29th of April. So he's coming up on his 18th birthday. This will be his year 18 year season. I'm guessing probably playing DSL, if not, maybe brought over to play low A at a rookie affiliate. 4 home runs, 58 at bats, batted 414, 4 stolen bases. He had 11 strikeouts to 15 walks. We love that. And really looking for him this season to kind of give us a better understanding of the profile. But you didn't get Detmers for nothing, but also I think you win this trade no matter what Arias becomes because everything we said about Detmers says real value, right?
I'll just add that Rice, um, he's listed at 6'2", 185,
Mm-hmm.
which is for a seven. Sometimes you'll see these guys, they get their DSL listing and for some reason it doesn't get updated ever. Like
Ever.
I think Camanero's listed at like 5'9",
162.
140. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like something silly, right? Um, and so no, the fact that he's already like he could keep growing. He could
Yeah.
definitely get over 200 pounds. And San Fran's already talking about him like, this could be a real. They talk about him like he's a man. He's got that maturity, and he could really be someone special. And so I'm interested and excited to see some of the moves. I wasn't really a big fan of is it of Kepler or Kapler?
Kapler.
Kapler.
Gabe Kapler.
Yeah. Yeah, Gabe, and I wasn't really a fan of how he was operating and just what they were doing. And some of these guys they're bringing in and bringing aboard like this young Arias or Eldridge, and it's kind of I think they're on the. I don't think people talk about Logan Webb enough. We can go on about this stuff. We can ramble. You and I could go on for another hour here,
Hours, yeah.
but I think this is a great podcast. I think this was a good one.
Yeah, we're really hitting our stride. And I mean,
And
I
our
love,
and
I
our
love Arias, but we got to see, dude. Like, that's what kills
yeah.
me about the DSL guys. I get so hyped, and I'm gonna get heartbroken by a few of them, and then I'm gonna be a little bitter and traumatized. But it's kind of the beauty of why we do this. Yeah, to kind of finish, Frankie Montas, not a good start to the kickoff here on Monday night. 3 runs in the first. I'm streaming him in a number of leagues, and I knew this was coming. I was just hoping it wouldn't be until next week. All right, Doc,
Mm.
we rambled a lot today. We had a great episode. Do you have anything else for the listener before we say goodbye?
I just wanted to say I'm your Huckleberry.
Thank you again for listening. Check out the newest articles for Scout the Stat Line that are up this week. I just did one on CC Sabathia trade from '08. Doc has his weekly Sunday Smoke up as well. And we are doing player profiles each and every day on the website. Doc has a couple coming this week. I just did one on Wilfred Veras. Those are awesome little small pieces, but we will catch you guys next Tuesday. Thank you.